Heat culture, and people have wanted to call in and talk about how they're not scared. Miami, how are we feeling now? How are we feeling about Heat culture now? 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. But I'll also say this, Harry. On Fitz and Harry, which you can usually listen to noon to 3 on ESPN Radio with Harry Douglas and Jason Fitz, shameless plug. You and I talked last week about the fact that historically there's no real home court advantage at this point in Boston anymore. They had a losing record. Now they're 500 over the last 2 seasons at home. So I said very loudly on Twitter on a tweet that sort of blew up for us that I'm not scared of them going back to Boston because Boston hasn't been a home court advantage. Here's my question. I think we had 120,000 views on that tweet. I don't remember seeing any Celtics fan chime in. If the Celtics win in 7 and they come back and then start chirping, can you chirp if you didn't chirp before? Like, can you now chirp that tweet saying, like, you don't know what you're talking about when the tweet's been out there for a week and nobody chirped it until then? Are you allowed to chirp, but you have to wait till the outcome's done? I don't know.
No. Well, I think if your team comes down, like comes back from being down 3-0 in a Eastern Conference Finals and they make a finals appearance, I think that gives you a little leverage to go and, chirp a little bit. Because it's something they would have done something that's never been done in NBA history, right? And that a lot of us thought was impossible and couldn't happen because of, at times them being inconsistent. But nor did we think at this juncture in this series, especially at Game 7, that the stars for the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo would be playing in the manner that they're playing in.
Oh, and let's be clear. They were terrible. Jimmy Butler, I don't care about the final stat line, and I don't even care about the last 6 minutes of the game. Jimmy Butler missed 12 shots in the paint in Game 6. That's the most in any of his career, right? Bam Adebayo missed 10 shots in the paint. The Heat had 36 misses in the paint. That's the most in any playoff game in 25 years. It wasn't just that Bam and Jimmy weren't able to get a lot of buckets. It's that they flat out weren't finishing at the rim. It was weird to watch so many shots, rim in, rim out, look weird. Like, those two had terrible games, and Miami was still in it all the way to the very end. I'm stunned by that development.
Yeah, well, Jimmy Butler was 5 for 21 from the field, and then you had Bam, who was 4 for 16. Combined, the two guys were 9 of 37 from the field. And the Miami Heat still had an opportunity to win this basketball game, but I don't think this type of thing can transpire into Game 7. You need the guys that you're counting on, your number 1 and your number 2 best player, to step up and make baskets. And I think Bam, I seen in Game 5, Fitz, you remember how fired up I was about the Game 5. I thought the Boston Celtics pushed him around a lot in that Game 5. Being able to let Jason Tatum guard you on the block or whatnot and push you off the block, that's inexcusable. But then in a Game 6, I didn't think he lived up to the hype and played in the manner that he should have played. That's Bam I'm talking about. And then Jimmy Butler, when it comes to Butler, I think he's using entirely too many pump fakes. And here's why I say that. The Boston Celtics defense, I think, have been so disciplined and paid attention to detail to not go for Jimmy's pump fakes. Now I think it's time for Jimmy to counteract. Right? Okay, just go for the shot the first time initially because it's putting him in bad positions when he pump fakes and then the Celtics defenders aren't going for it. And then we got to give Derek White a lot of credit. He was phenomenal in that game defensively, but the Celtics have been able to throw multiple bodies at Jimmy Butler to kind of keep him off his game a little bit in these last few games. So it's been phenomenal for the Celtics, not so much for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Butler's in a slump and has sort of lost some of his confidence. Hear me out on it. Like, you're talking about pump fakes. It just feels like he's making simple things look difficult. But also, even the advanced analytics that, I like diving into sometimes when we're looking at some of these things, they show you that when he's driving the lane, he's not really looking for contact. He's looking to pass the ball right now. On his drive.
Wait, say it right there really quick.
He's not looking for contact. He's looking to get rid of it.
That's the thing that really stood out in the Game 6 to me, and I thought the announcers even brought it up. He got fouled one time, and Jimmy was trying to tell the ref that he was trying to shoot the basketball, and clearly he was close in the paint, and he was trying to pass it. So there's moments where he's in there right by the rim, and he's not even looking to score the basketball. He's looking to pass it. You can't be passive when you're trying to help your team get to an NBA Finals, and you're the top player on that team.
In the first 2 games of this series, Jimmy Butler had basically a 2-to-1 ratio. When he drove the lane, 2 out of every 3 times it ended in a shot. In the last 4 games, he has more passes than shots when he drives the lane. think about that. If you're looking at the last 4 games, he's not being as aggressive. And I feel like you and I have said that the last 2 games, saying this is the game where Jimmy Butler's going to come out really aggressive. It just feels like he can't find his spot to become aggressive with it. I don't like. There's a moment where I thought aggressiveness meant simply throwing your body into it. He was doing that early into the game. It just wasn't something that he was doing with A, any level of effectiveness, and B, any level of finishing. So like, there's a fine line here. But Jimmy Butler has to be the best player for the Heat. Bam Adebayo has to play better. Right now, Jimmy Butler looks like he's lost his mojo, and Bam Adebayo, like, as hard as is it for me to say this as a 5'9" white guy that doesn't play basketball, like, Bam Adebayo looks soft compared to him. Like, he's getting pushed around. He looks soft. Tell me this. When you're looking underneath, you tell me, like, you're watching the end of this game and you're watching Bam go up. There are times that Bam is just he's out there, like, trying to get the ball, and everybody around him just gets there faster. They get there with more effectiveness. Like, he just got pushed around underneath. Tell me I'm wrong. He got pushed around.
Well, can I say this? No lies detected.
I mean,
I talked about that game 5, right? And how I felt he was being pushed around on numerous of occasions. Sometimes it's looking like, especially in that game 6, when Bam has the basketball, he's so indecisive because he's being, defense in a tightly manner. You got to give Al Horford some credit, because Al Horford has done a phenomenal job in this series and playing defense. But it's times where Bam looks a little timid with the basketball because of the Celtics defense. And the intensity by them has risen a ton.
How often do we hear quarterbacks, like, we always have that comment from whoever it was a few years ago, I'm seeing ghosts, like when defenses can start to confuse. Like, there's a level here.
Sam Darnold.
It was Sam Darnold, right.
Seeing ghosts.
There's a level for me that feels like both Bam and Jimmy are seeing ghosts right now. They don't even know what to do against this defense. It's wild. Andre in Michigan. Andre, thanks for calling the show, man. What you got for us?
Hey, what's up? What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Oh, we're great, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing excellent, man. As a Celtics fan, when we were down 3-0, I was nervous, but I told my coworkers, if we get one, that's it, because I kept saying 1 game at a time. I made a lot of money on 1 game at a time these last 3 games. Okay, that's all it takes. And now we're going back to Game 7. We're going back to Boston, and it's over. It's over. I'm sorry, it's over.
Look, let me ask you a question. So, if the Celtics win this game tonight, when you go to work, tell us. We want to hear your emotion. How are you going to be when you get to work?
Yeah.
When I come in there, I'm going to be like, how about them Celtics? How about them Celtics, baby? 4 straight wins. We are 1 in 151. There we go. 1 in 151. The first team to come back from being down 3-0.
Oh, man.
It's over.
A, thanks for the call. That's amazing. B, I don't know what's going to be worse if this happens. Celtics fans for the next, 27 years saying we are the one that did it, or Greeny for the next 55 years saying he's the one that predicted it on Get Up. Either way, we're all screwed. Like, this is just going to go.
How ironic would it be, though? The Boston Red Sox came back from being down 3-0 and won that series, and then went on to win the World Series. How ironic would that be?
That's all the more reason. Like, come on, Boston sports fans have had the Patriots, they've had the Bruins. You're a fan of the Bruins, obviously. They've had a historic comeback. We're going to give them another historic comeback. Like, at some point, like, let's just share a little of that choo-choo. I've got no dog in the fight either way. I can't figure it out. I do know that through all of this conversation we've been having, there is actually somebody that might be owed an apology. Maybe the outcomes of this game means it's time to rethink the way we talk about both of the coaches involved in this matchup. We're going to talk about it next, but first, Harry has to tell you this about Granger.
Well, my great people, for the ones who get it done.
The Houston Astros, world champions!
Baseball is back, and so is flipping bats.